Welcome to another edition of Tuscaloosa Talks. Clearly, we're out here at location at Tuscaloosa National Airport. I'm joined by our airport director, Jeff Powell. Jeff, thank you for joining us here today.
Good morning. Great to be here today.
Hey, we're glad to have you. Now, describe where we are right now, because we're here somewhere new. We'll have a ribbon cutting in the near future, but here at TPD's new home, Helicopter Division. Talk a little bit about it.
Sure. We're on one of the most historic parts of the airport. We're on the pad of the hangar that trained a lot of our World War II pilots. Today is housed by the Tuscaloosa Police Department in the Helicopter Division. It's a new location. They've just relocated from over by the main terminal and expanded their operations into this beautiful facility that we're here today.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this at the end, but I first want to talk about you. You've been our airport director now for how long? About 7 years?
7 years since 2015, so it's been a great opportunity. I consider it home. It's good to be back in this area of the state.
So tell people at home a little bit about your history. How did you arrive at this point, and what made you choose Tuscaloosa?
Well, I grew up next to an airport in Haleyville, Alabama, so aviation's kind of been a part of my life. I went to college and got my pilot's certificate and license, and my first job was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, up on the seacoast, and was involved primarily in airport operations. Got exposed to many different aspects of aviation. I knew at the time my wife was not going to move to the New England area, and was able to move down to Nashville, Tennessee, worked at the Nashville International Airport. Was up there for almost 8 years, and then when we had family involved, small kids, we knew we wanted to come back home, especially being in the National Guard. Having friends and family nearby was very important, and we had a great opportunity to come back to Tuscaloosa.
Now, you've served our country, and thank you for doing that. And I know, during the last several years, you've been deployed. Talk a little bit about where you were deployed and what your mission was.
Yes, sir. Been deployed in the National Guard since 2011. Done a variety of roles. Been in the engineering, construction type of specialties and skill sets, and we were deployed in 2020. We took the unit out of Fayette, Alabama, overseas. A lot of the deployments now, you don't stay in one location. We were able to operate our projects in 7 different countries. We based our headquarters out of Kuwait, but we did operations in Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Qatar, and UAE.
Well, again, thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for your family's sacrifice as well. You were gone a long time, and I can't imagine what they went through, so thank you to your entire family.
It's absolutely the hardest on the families, them having to pick up that person that's gone. So we're very thankful to have support by our families and friends. We couldn't do it without them.
Well, let's transition and talk about what's happening at Tuscaloosa National Airport. Let's start there. National Airport. When I say recently, about a year ago or so, we were designated as a national airport. To people at home who really don't follow why that's important, talk about its significance to the city of Tuscaloosa.
Back in 2015, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, took a deeper dive into what's the different types of airports throughout the country, and they started with splitting it out between commercial and non-commercial, or primary and non-primary, and that's around 3,800 airports nationwide. And then if you look at just general aviation, which is pretty much anything other than commercial air service, they were trying to figure out what's the difference between a Tuscaloosa, a Shelby County, a Gulf Shores airport. And they looked at the variety of operations. They looked at how many aircraft are based at the airport, how many aircraft that visit from out of state to your airport. And it all revolves around connectivity, and that involves our charters, our cargo. So they base it out of 4 or 5 categories: national general aviation, regional general aviation, local, basic, and unclassified. Unclassified being the smallest, and national being the largest of that non-primary group. Every 2 years, the Federal Aviation Administration publishes a report and categorizes each airport, every one of them throughout the U.S., and they categorize based off our current operations as a national general aviation airport. And we've been very happy and enjoy telling that story that this airport performs a lot today. We average around 60 to 70 aircraft per day. We've had cargo this morning. We've had charters this past week. We've got the women's volleyball tomorrow. We've got the women's soccer coming up in a few days. All that it really adds to our impact to the community, and we definitely want to be an asset to everybody in this community.
I say this tongue-in-cheek, so we had cargo this morning, but no human trafficking.
That's right. That's right. It did come out of Laredo, Texas, and it was safely a cargo flight.
It's amazing sometimes what we have to deal with.
That's right.
The myths that can exist out there. Let's talk about the improvements that have happened and are coming thanks to Elevate Tuscaloosa. When we passed Elevate, The airport was a central piece about that. The very first investment we made with Elevate was the runway reconstruction, I think 422. Talk about why that was important, what it was and why that was important in terms of that reconstruction.
So much of our job is maintaining our infrastructure, and for years, because we're general aviation, we have a very small entitlement. And Elevate helped us really show and communicate how serious our infrastructure is to this community, and it able to have the justification for the FAA to help us fund large amounts of investment into the runway. We are very excited that we were able to get bids back under budget. We built the runway ahead of schedule, and we did it in a manner that we recycled a good portion of the previous runway. So Elevate really helped us tell that story so that we can have these critical infrastructures to help propel the airport for the next 25 years. Every time we put a new piece of payment down, it's a security that for the next 20 to 30 years, we've got that part of the airport good to go so that we're ready for continued growth.
Well, a few months ago, we purchased about 100 acres of property, $2.5 million through Elevate to extend our runway. Now, we'll be applying for grants to do that, and it's an astronomical cost. I've heard, I think, $25 to $30 million. Why is extending our runway important for the city of Tuscaloosa?
We just completed our master plan for the airport. We do it about every 10 years. It's a requirement by the FAA to do that, and it's a good exercise that we have to look through our objective data. It's a very formulated process that we have to abide by, and we look at the data of what's been happening the past 5-10 years, and then it starts painting a picture of what's the next demands for capital improvements over the next 5, 10, all the way out to 20 years. And because of the cargo that we've had in the last 5 years, it was already showing a need for an extended runway to safely handle those aircraft that we've had and are projected to have. You could see since 1997 a continued growth from both our large public charter aircraft and our cargo that's saying, hey, you're meeting the need, but it ain't going to be much more before you expand beyond that capacity. So, what we have here today is something we talked about 10 years ago. We're planning projects that we're going to need 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and we don't want to be caught behind the curve when that demand shows up.
So we've just applied now for a terminal improvement plan. Talk about why rehabbing our terminal is going to be important, whether it's building, adding on, renovating, a combination thereof. Why is that important to the future of the airport?
So the southern half of the airport, the terminal, the runway, the air traffic control tower was all built around 1970. So all that infrastructure is aging out. So we're asking the question, what do we do for the next 50 years? We serve over 125 charters a year out of that terminal, and we're getting ready for the growth of the community to help support commercial air service. So thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law and Elevate Tuscaloosa, we have the ability and the opportunity to go after these strategic investments. Previous to all of those programs, it was really just programs that maintained the airport. So this is a great opportunity that expires in 2026 to go after grants such as the Airport Terminal Program, to take a look at our facility. How do we compare and compete with other airports? And I think we've got a very competitive process or application to go after those critical investments so that it's a 95% federal, 5% local. I think that's a very good solution.
That's better than good. It's fantastic.
It is great.
It really is.
It has been absolutely instrumental that the bipartisan infrastructure law gave us those opportunities to do things like the runway extension, the renovation of the terminal, and the ability to construct a dedicated cargo ramp. So by renovating or looking at a new terminal, we're trying to find that way of what's the most economical approach to looking at that key asset for the airport. We use it every year. We want to make sure that we maintain that current demand, but also have the ability to grow into it with additional services. It was designed for pre-9/11 operations, so how we use today, it's not got the appropriate layout. So our application addresses all those, but not getting to the point where it's just astronomical in the cost to do anything.
Well, Tuscaloosa is a little bit rare because we have a national airport, but yet it's not under an authority. It's a department of the city, fully funded by the city. I know that from time to time you have to hear me say that at the end of the day we lose somewhere around $750,000 or more. That's just on operating costs here at the airport, and mainly because we have to keep a 24/7 fire service in addition just to the operations of the airport. Let's talk about one day maybe transitioning into an authority, why that would be important, because we serve more than just the city of Tuscaloosa out here.
Absolutely. We support the region, the West Alabama area, multiple counties by the connectivity that we provide from a personnel through parts, through cargo, air freight, whatever it may be. By going to an authority, we just take that workload, whether it's through resources, staff, and time, away from the city so the city can stay focused on the citizens throughout the city of Tuscaloosa, and we can focus on maintaining this asset that supports multiple regions, multiple counties. We have a great relationship as a city department, but we know that every time we request through stuff with our budget, through support from crews, from staffs, from other departments, we're taking that resource from somewhere else in the city. So the airport authority concept allows us kind of operate as a quasi-government entity, and lets us just focus on airport issues and not have to bother and pull away that time and resource from another part of another department.
Well, hopefully one day in the next 10 to 20 years we'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, you have truly done a fantastic job leading our airport operations. Before I close, I do want you to talk a little bit about what Dave Pass has meant in terms of leading. He's chairman of our Airport Advisory Board, which really is a good feedback loop for you, for me, for the entire city. What has he meant to you as someone who volunteers his time to really be an advocate for our national airport?
Dave has been outstanding. I couldn't have asked for a better person to work with in reestablishing the Airport Advisory Committee. He's a true champion of the airport. He's a leader throughout the community, not just for the airport, for many things throughout the community. He really cares and wants to help and make this a great community to live in for all ages, for all groups. And a lot of the key successes that we've had as the airport's been thanks to him and the committee as a whole in collaborating, because so much of what we do is a reflection of the community. We don't go to the community to ask them to support the airport. We're trying to say these things are important to the community, and Dave is an outstanding communicator. He's great at relationship building, and I'd be very nervous not to have him around because he does so much, and it's amazing that he does it as a volunteer. So we're very thankful for his support.
We certainly are, but we're thankful for him. We're thankful for you, Jeff, and everything that you do for the city. Your professionalism, your knowledge, what you bring to the table, your passion for this airport. We're going to go great places, and in large part because of your leadership, and I'm thankful to work with you every day. This has been another edition of Tuscaloosa Talks.